Hello everyone, and welcome to the RV Inspection and Care podcast and video. I'm Dwayne. I'm a certified RV inspector, and today we're going to be talking about buying small motorhomes versus buying a smaller travel trailer instead. This is a fair comparison that a lot of RVers have to make. You know, there's different RV categories. On the motorhome side, you have Class A, B, and C. On the towable side, you have travel trailers and you have fifth wheels. And unfortunately, many RVers get stuck right here. They're not sure which way should they go. Now, if you want a big RV, well, then your comparison is probably on the motorhome side, a big Class A like a diesel pusher or a Super C, compared to a larger fifth wheel on the towable side. But what if you don't want the big RV? What if you want a smaller, more manageable RV? Well, then the choice, the comparison, is probably going to come into, on the motorhome side, Class B or B plus, some people call them just small Class Cs, versus on the towable side, travel trailers, smaller travel trailers. So let's cover the pros or the advantages of going either way, and then you can decide what you feel is going to work best for you and for the way that you like to travel and camp. Let's start with small motorhomes and the advantages of choosing them. The first one we're going to talk about is that the smaller motorhome, like Class B and B plus in that area, they're more like driving a passenger vehicle that you are already familiar with. You know, when you're talking about the bigger motorhomes like Class A's and C's and Super C's, many people are intimidated about learning how to drive that big of a vehicle. But when we're talking about the smaller motorhomes, well, it's much easier to get used to driving them. That's great for a lot of people. The second advantage is you may not need to tow a second vehicle along with you like you often have to do with the bigger motorhomes. You can save the whole cost of the second vehicle. That's because the motorhome itself is small enough to be nimble around town and in traffic. It gets in and out pretty easily and will fit in most parking spaces. So it's a big savings not to have the second vehicle along. Here's a big one, a big advantage. All the weight issues have already been resolved for you by the RV builder. You know, this really creates a big headache for a lot of folks when they look at towables. They've got to match up the tow vehicle with the right RV and make sure they're not going overweight. Well, you know what? On a motorhome, these smaller motorhomes, the manufacturer has already figured out the weight that goes on the chassis. All you have to do is put your cargo in, make sure that it doesn't go over the weight limit of the RV, and take off and go. It's that simple. So it's a big advantage for many people. Another advantage, pretty much any time, it's easy to use the kitchen and bathroom facilities in a small motorhome. In fact, a lot of passengers like the fact that they can get up and go back and use those facilities, maybe even while they're going down the road. But they also work really well at travel stops. Another advantage for small motorhomes, and this is another big one, is backing up. You know, many people are really intimidated about backing RVs. But with a small motorhome, as we said earlier, they are nimble. If you can back up a car or a truck, well, you can back up a small motorhome. You don't have to be aware of any special skills or anything along that line. You can back up and get in and out pretty easily. That's something many people appreciate. Well, those are the advantages of going with a small motorhome. But what about the advantages of smaller travel trailers? The number one advantage we'll talk about, they can cost much less than buying a smaller motorhome, even when you figure in the tow vehicle, because you have to. The tow vehicle and the travel trailer make up the full rig. But even putting the two together, you're very often at a lower cost than many of the smaller motorhomes these days. And if you already have the tow vehicle that you can use with your smaller travel trailer, well, then you really save a lot of money. The second advantage is you can use the tow vehicle as your around town or daily driver. What do I mean by that? Well, remember we talked about the fact that with a motorhome, you don't need to take a second vehicle, and that is an advantage. However, remember that every time you leave the campsite and then come back, you have to unhook everything at the campsite, water, sewer, electric. And then when you come back, you have to hook it all back up again. It happens every time. Instead, when you have a small travel trailer, you just leave the travel trailer hooked up and you take your tow vehicle around town. Works great for a lot of folks. Another advantage is if your tow vehicle needs a major repair, and sometimes this happens, well, then you can stay in your RV at the campsite. When you have a smaller motorhome or any motorhome, and something goes wrong with the engine or drivetrain that's serious, well, then very often you're out of your RV for a while until they get it fixed. But that's not true with a towable. The next advantage is similar, and that is that there's just more places and more mechanics that's going to be able to work on those tow vehicles that usually pull small motorhomes. They're usually just passenger vehicle trucks, and there's lots of places and mechanics that can handle that, and that's an advantage. The last advantage we'll talk about is that these tow vehicles also very often have more safety features built into them than even the small motorhomes do. And that's big for a lot of folks. Well, these are the pros. These are the advantages of going either way with a small motorhome or a small towable like a travel trailer. The thing is, once you make that choice, whether you're going with a motorhome, whether you're going with a travel trailer, then your next step is you need to choose the brands you're going to focus on to buy the RV, and make sure that they are brands known for good overall build quality and customer service after the sale. Now, I created some guidebooks that can help in this area. All you have to do is choose the category. On the motorhome side, you can choose the guidebook that is for Class B and B+, or small Cs. On the towable side, just choose the guidebook for travel trailers. And then you'll have a good list of brands that you should be focusing on if you want a quality RV. The next step is you need to learn a buying process to make sure that whatever RV you get it at the best price, you get the one that fits you best, you make sure it doesn't have any hidden issues, and it makes sure that you have a pleasant buying process all the way through. Once again, I created a guidebook that can help you in this area on either buying new or used RVs. Just couple the right one with the right best brands guidebook, and you'll be off to a great start. Keep in mind too, with any of my guidebooks, you're going to get my personal help and assistance as you go. You can ask me any question you want, and I will be happy to answer it for you. I'll help you any way that I can. Well, I hope this video is going to help you then choose the right RV for you, whether it is a motorhome or a travel trailer. And that's it for now. Have safe and happy travels, my friends. Until next time.